Welcome. This is the preview of the course for more seasoned directors. This preview is about 5 minutes long, and it is about a course that lasts for about 3 hours if all is done at one sitting. The course can be delivered live or else accessed by recorded videos, and it can be segmented into one or more of the modules at a time, as you wish. Module 1. The instructor is introduced and he points out that a major U.S. law firm sees the key risk facing companies in 2023 as being the board itself. The instructor recaps Section 174 of the Jamaican Companies Act to provide context and stresses that one's knowledge of the wording of the law alone is insufficient for a full understanding of the duties and responsibilities of directors. He elaborates on the implications of the wording in the Act in the context of the new era of increasing litigation against directors. He then illustrates, with recent settled and pending international court cases, how the duty of care has evolved to embrace the need to be continuously aware of mission-critical risks, and putting adequate monitoring systems in place as being asleep at the switch is now itself being interpreted as not acting in good faith, which used to be a higher bar to establish than it is now. Turning to fiduciary duties, our instructor gets into the area of delegation and explains the lessons learned from the Barings Rogue Trader case and the consequences that befell the board. He explains the concept of derivative actions and alludes to the trend towards empowering regulatory agencies to impose monetary penalties which might well be coming to Jamaica. In recounting the defenses available for directors, he pours cold water on the traditional defense that expert reports may be relied on when the directors knew, or even should have known, contrary facts, as illustrated by the relatively recent Centro case in Australia. Then the instructor deals with conflicts of interest and the landmark cases on that subject to illustrate the inflexibility of the courts on the issue. He refers to the mechanics in Jamaica for disqualification of directors and points out that it is but one of the adverse fates that might befall a director. And that is why indemnification of directors by a company is permitted in the law. But since an indemnity by an insolvent party is worthless, directors look to D&O insurance, and here the instructor points out desirable features of such policies and what risks are typically not coverable. The next topic in this section deals with the recent opening up of derivative actions beyond the boardroom and into the day-to-day management suites. This is a profound 2023 development, and the settled McDonald's cases and the upcoming Fox Corporation case are discussed in relation to the business judgment rule, where directors may be arguably off the hook when a company suffers a cost that could have been avoided. Then the widely accepted competing values framework in defining an organization's culture is introduced, and the instructor gives the graphic example of how a cultural post-merger stress at aircraft manufacturer Boeing undermined a board's efforts to have mission-critical, and the more recent concept of central compliance risks under effective review. Finally, he provides an outline of the steps boards might take to show appropriate action in addressing corporate risks on a disinterested and informed basis so that they may be better entitled to the benefit of the business judgment rule. Module 2. Conduct of Effective Boards. We begin this section with a handy reminder of the 4 board mission decisions and the distinction between board oversight and day-to-day management, and the fact that a board's mission is distinguishable from its responsibilities. We show the areas of top priority of gold medal boards as distinguished from the rest, and why that might be so. The instructor then shows what areas of oversight are receiving insufficient attention in the opinion of directors of leading companies. He speaks about the types of information and the quality of presentation that the board should expect, and then how boards should have consensus as a goal, how disagreements should only rarely be unresolved, and what appropriate actions could be taken by a director who is in firm opposition. And then he discusses the high quality needed of board resolutions and stresses the importance of following up. The next few slides are to do with board dynamics and the personal attributes and conduct of directors, and the correlation of those behaviors with the success of an enterprise. Module 3. Here, the section on how to evaluate proposals is introduced. The instructor stresses that an assumption of honesty and sincerity should be fundamental when dealing with management, but that there can be subconscious influences at work to be alert for. First, there is a discussion of heuristics and shortcuts versus algorithmic approaches, and where each has a legitimate place, and then we speak about identifying possible self-interest biases that could be at work. These are questions the decision-makers should ask themselves. Next, we discuss questions that the decision-makers should ask the team proposing. We then look at 6 biases that can creep into proposals that evaluators of decisions should be alert for. We discuss other traps that can inhibit good decision-making and how to overcome them. and we introduce the post facto rationalization technique used by Rothschilds. Finally, in this section, we look briefly at Elon Musk's first principles management philosophy. And in the last slide, we leave your directors with a checklist of how to evaluate M&A opportunities. The next section is Module 4. The impact of ESG on boards. The history of ESG and present misgivings are briefly discussed, and then we play a brief entertaining video explaining the impact of the S and G aspects and how they have evolved. Then the instructor shows the extent of ESG being integrated into the operations of leading companies, according to a recent study by an IBM-funded think tank. He then discusses the results of international surveys that rank the reasons why companies are embracing ESG integration into their operations, showing that value payback rather than altruism is the motivation. After that, we'll look at what the rating agencies, Moody's and Fitch, think are relevant ESG factors in their rating of private sector debt issuers. And then we look at how you can use the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board to see what specific items are used in its evaluation of ESG credentials in different industries, including your own industry. Now we get into the 8 areas that ESG can give rise to financial paybacks, and we provide a broad brush, simple, 30,000-foot approach to estimating whether integrating ESG is worth pursuing, and then, if so, we leave the participants with the 10 steps a board would go through to create a framework for ESG integration. And then the instructor challenges the participants to develop a post facto rationalization for the year 2030 if the do-nothing option was chosen. The next module, which is Module 5, Cybersecurity and the Board, is the last module. First, the instructor quotes from Moody's methodology what it focuses on in relation to cyber in rating a company's debt, and he shows the results of a survey by Allianz disclosing that risk management leaders see cyber as the top priority this year. And then we also show the results of a PwC director's survey, showing their opinions of how high cyber now ranks as an oversight priority, and he speaks about the new annual report disclosure rules that are in the pipeline on board cyber oversight, which leads us into what the top 5 oversight activities of boards are on cyber at this time. Then we show a graphic of what might be the terms of reference for the board to outsource oversight, given the unlikelihood of identifying a full board member with the specific skills as well as sufficient rounded director-appropriate breadth. And finally, the instructor touches on the subject of cyber insurance and the use of cyber frameworks for you to be able to demonstrate the use of best practices. That will bring us to the end of the full 5-module course. As I said at the start, because it is so long, some companies might wish to stagger the presentations for the directors. Please make contact if you are interested in having this course delivered to your directors and C-suite officers by emailing Richard Downer at richard@directorsurveypro.com or calling him at 1-213-651-8192. While you are visiting the DSP site, do also have a look at the director survey services that we offer by clicking on the Home tab. Thank you for watching.